successful entrepreneurs, business owners, or even people that work for somebody that are successful, it's because they had those values instilled. So I love that we came back to this because it's so important as parents and as young people that are listening to this show that the work has to be done.
Yep.
And success doesn't come freely. It comes through the hard work. It does get easier, and it does start to multiply with consistency and pursuit of what you're trying to accomplish. But it just doesn't come as easy as a lot of us make it appear, right? Unless it's just all fluff. So let's just get back to your story because I ultimately want to end on where you're at today.
Yeah.
So you started doing the volunteer time. Ultimately, you became a paramedic first?
Well, you become an EMT first, which, an EMT is like let's call it a semester level like training. You can do it in a couple months if you need to. But a paramedic is more of a 2-year degree program. And so for me, in the program that I was in, you had to be an EMT first for 6 months at least and be active with a agency and run calls, and then you could be accepted into the paramedic program. And so I did that and got through the paramedic program, and I actually got hired right about the time we were in paramedic school, full-time with Show Low Fire. And I want to say 01. Part of the deal with them putting you through the paramedic program was you had to stay with them for a year, which made sense because they paid for me to go to paramedic school. But the ultimate 5-year goal for me was to be back home in Kalispell and on Kalispell Fire. Well, Kalispell, you couldn't apply for Kalispell Fire unless you were going to be a paramedic by the June of the year that you applied. So that's the whole 5-year plan, right? Did it, got the EMT, got my medic, got my year after, applied up here, and so that brings us to 2008. I got hired on Kalispell Fire.
Yeah.
And so dropped everything, quit, and you never quit a full-time fire department job till you have another one. Because you can't, it's a club, right? Once you're in there, unless you can move into a different one, you just don't quit.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But I did. I took the gamble, like everything. You take a leap of faith. At the time, Kalispell was hiring, they were going to hire 10, and they had this grant called a SAFER grant. So they were going to hire 10, and I said, you know what? I've tested enough. I know enough. I can get one of those 10 spots. So took the gamble, sold my house, moved up here, bought a house here, and drove a dump truck, pulling an excavator, working for a local contractor until I could get one of these 10 spots, right?
Sure.
Show up at the Kalispell interview and go up to sign in, and she says, oh, you're here to interview for one of the 2 spots.
Oh, no.
And I said, what? And I literally have never been so close to a full-on panic attack. I actually walked to the door, shaking, having a full, if I don't get one of these 2 spots, I'm bankrupt. You know what I mean?
You're going to be driving a dump truck for a long time.
Yeah, because the dump truck ain't paying the bills. Right? It's paying about half my mortgage.
Wow.
My savings is depleting. So it's absolute game time. I have to get one of these 2 jobs or I'm screwed.
Yeah.
But, and right about the time I'm, just about pulling myself together, the guy comes down and he's like, Kyle, you ready? Yep. Let's do it. I guess we're doing this. And then I don't, if you don't know what a fire department interview is like, it's the most, and it's meant to be the most stressful thing that you can do.
Okay, we don't know. Tell us about it because we got listeners that maybe they want to be a fireman.
Right. Yeah. So
what's the tip?
So the tip is be ready to bullshit.
In a good
talk
way.
A lot. You know what I mean? Well, because really that's, showing up is one part, and being able to wait, fake your way through it is the other part. So our paramedic teacher always said what you want to do always is even if you're nervous, be like a duck on the water, right? You're above the water, the duck looks calm and serene, and underneath his little feet are just hauling ass.
Yeah,
you know what
sure.
I mean? So in a fire department interview, they want to see that you can pull that off. Basically, that you're going to be calm under pressure. So their job is to pressure you. So our first question was, you just arrived at work. You were your teammate was supposed to give a 10-minute presentation to a class of second graders, 30 second graders. are coming in, and he just called in sick, and you have 5 minutes to prepare your 10-minute speech about the history of Kalispell Fire Department. Go. And they literally just sit there and stare at you for 10 minutes or for 5 minutes to prepare your 10-minute speech.
Yeah.
And you're like, on what? And they're like, you tell me.
Yeah.
You know, so you sit there just sweating bullets. You got 5 people lined up sitting in a chair. You're sitting on just a wicker chair in the middle of a room with 5 dudes staring at you.
Yeah.
And you're like trying to come up with all what do I know about Kalispell, and what do I about the history of the city and the history of the fire department, and blah blah blah. And then you get up and you give your presentation. You're like, okay, kids, who's ready to who wants to be a firefighter when you grow up? And they totally play into it. Me.
Yeah, yeah.
But you give this whole 10-minute speech.
You had to fill 10 minutes of time.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Like just talking about the history of Kalispell Fire, and you know what I mean,
yeah.
And then there's a scenario component of a medical scenario and a fire scenario, and how would you handle this, and a personality conflict. If you were a leader in this position, how would you handle it? And there's all these components, and then if you make it through that, there's a physical agility component to it, and on and on and on. So it's really it's just like any other stressful job that's got way more applicants than it has positions. It's going to have a lot of ways to weed out the weak. When I interviewed for Phoenix Fire, there was 50 job openings and there was 5,000 applicants.
Wow.
So that gives you an idea. And I think I made it to like number 76 or something. And it was 26 away from getting a job, but I also knocked out 4,900 guys, or 40, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. So you landed one of those 2 positions?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I left the interview not really. You never leave a fire interview having a clue. Like, you could have bombed it or you could have aced it.
Those guys play poker.
Totally. Yeah. So they're just like, straight face. Well, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
And you walk out of there just going, oh shit. So I left. I went to Wendy's, I ate lunch, and I went right across the street, and I was in the car wash tunnel, getting the car wash done. I'm in the tunnel, and my phone rings, and I remember it like it was yesterday, and now that was almost 13 years ago. But they're like, hey, we want to congratulate you. And the minute he said that, it was like, I could feel like all of this stress.
They knew that fast that you were the one.
Yeah, it was probably within an hour.
Wow.
After me leaving.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was cool.
Huh, good for you.
What happened was they hired 2 of us, but they didn't demote. They eliminated, because this was in 2008. Like, remember the sky is falling, the economy's nothing.
Yep.
So they eliminated their fire prevention bureau that they had for like inspections. So the guy that ran that became a firefighter. So he automatically got one of 3 spots, and then they hired the 2 of us.
Oh, okay.
But and then so the 3 of us did I want to say it was like an 8-week academy, which was pretty easy, honestly, since I'd already been a fireman for like 8 years.
So let's move through the fire department a little bit, because I really want to talk about what you're doing present day. But can you just give us some of the highlights of your last 10 years at the department, and kind of what those look like, and where your successes are, your highlights?
Yeah, well, I think a real important part, I guess, not to like dwell on the fire department stuff for too long, but I think it's a real important life lesson to kind of touch on was, so I worked for years to get on Kalispell Fire, right? And like 4 months into it, they said, hey, we need to bring you in, we need to have a talk. And of course I'm going, well, like, I'm the rookie guy here. Like, what's this all about? Did I do something wrong?
Yeah.
And they said, hey, it's, the economy's terrible. We jumped the gun in hiring you guys. We're probably going to have to lay you off. So back to like the panic, right? Like,
what do I do?
Now I'm here. I got this house. Like, I had the job that I worked for 7 years to get, yada, yada, yada. And, long story short, through city council meetings and everything else, it looked like we were going to get laid off. Well, whether you believe in God or whatever, like, city of Whitefish happened to be hiring, like, at the exact same time Kalispell couldn't afford us.
Wow.
So I was able to move straight up to whitefish with no
Because you were in the
layoff.
club.
I was in the club. You don't quit one until you got another one, right? So, but it's funny, like at the time I was so pissed that like I'd worked for years to get on this department, and now here I am having to move and start over again and start a third academy. I've done this for 9 years, and I'm starting to take another academy like I'm this new guy, and it sucked, right? But unbeknownst to me, there's this pretty girl named Emily that worked at the city water department who would walk by every day at lunch, and I'm like, man, she's cute, you know. And one thing led to another. Well, look, 12 years down the road, that's my wife. We've got 2 kids. Like, had that not happened to me at Kalispell, I would have nothing that I have now.
Yeah.
Like, so it's one of those, you know, like, be patient. Maybe the thing that's happening to you that sucks at the time is the best thing that ever happened to you. You know, so. Well,
if you're anywhere in the United States and you don't know the difference between Kalispell and whitefish is kind of bougie.
Yeah, yeah.
You got a nice station up there.
Yep.
Nothing against Kalispell, by the way, because that's the city I live in, and they got nice stuff. But yeah, you're on the hill.
Yeah, it's it's like, I don't know, moving from Denver to Vail. You know, for people that understand it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Kind of deal. So
exactly,
it's only 20 miles up the road, but you move up a lot in status, I guess, if you want to call it that. But I don't say that because I live in Whitefish. I'm a redneck. I don't live in either one.
Yeah, no, I get it. Oh, so what is your current role in the department?
So I'm still a firefighter. We don't have a lot of turnover there, so there's really not a ton of opportunity to promote. You know, it's only a 15-person department. We've got 5 scheduled a day and a 4-man minimum. So, you know, it's a small deal. So somebody would have to retire or something like that to even have an opportunity to promote. But it actually works out well for me because, you know, now with starting this business 7 years ago, I'm a boss every other day. I'm not at the fire hall. Like, I honestly am happy to go to the fire hall and just be a guy.
Yeah, just be a guy over there.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I do want to transition. So here you are in a career job and you've got a wife and kids. You didn't have kids, but you had a wife at the time that you started this business. You know, what inspired you? You know, you're working full time for the fire department, and I know that you guys have great schedules, but oftentimes those days are meant to go vacation or have fun and you know, be on a lake. There's a lake around every corner up here. Right. What inspired you to start your business? And for our listeners, what is the name of that business and what was the purpose of it?
Yeah, so I started out. We named it Response Equipment Specialist, and really what it grew from was my frustration. You know, I've always, like we talked about, been mechanical, been the guy that's like, oh, that's broke. Well, we'll just leave it there. Kyle will fix it when he comes on shift, kind of thing. And for years, people joked and said, you should really start a business doing this. So after years of hearing that, I thought, well, maybe I really should. You know, everybody could use a little side money. So I thought, well, rather than us continue to send our stuff to the local shop that doesn't have there's a certification that you can get called emergency vehicle technician. Well, there was none in the town at all.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, shoot, like I'll go get that.
Yeah.
And I'll get a little service truck and I'll run around on my days off. And as I want to on my own schedule, I can do oil changes and brake jobs and stuff like that and make a little side money. Well, that became buying actually a pretty big truck that we call the taco truck because it looks like a taco truck. But 2 months in, I couldn't, like, as soon as the word got out, and granted, again, I'm in the club, right?
Yeah.
So everybody that knew I'm doing it knew they could trust me. I'm an honest person. I'm one of the guys. 2 months in, I couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
So that immediately, you know, I hired a guy, and I guess to make the story real short, like that first guy turned into 9 of us total now in a 20,000 square foot building, and you know, and the taco truck's still around, but it's almost an end of an era, you know.
Wait,
but,
I think you got an employee that got his eyes on that thing.
Yeah,
he wants to make tacos.
It's funny because we've called it the taco truck for 7 years, and Sonny and his wife want to have a taco truck. Like what do you call it? A concession rig.
So, you know, look, I know it's easy to tell the story because you're way down the road from doing it, but that takes a lot of effort to put together the structure and the business that you have today. I mean, I'm sitting in your main lobby here. It's beautifully decorated. You've got tons of space behind us. You got a lot of vehicles in the shop. Everybody's working. Did you write a business plan, or did this just grow organically? And it's like, okay, well, I'm super busy. I need some help. I have a truck. I better get a building. I mean, how did that all roll out?
Yeah, it was kind of both. You know, initially it was just me, $9,000, whatever it was. Went and bought this truck that I saw. I had this idea. I saw the truck. I'm like, okay, here's the truck. It's time to make the move. I'm going to do it. I filled it with tools. Started building